Hey, welcome back to another ballistics gel test. Today we are going to be shooting, I have to read this, there's a lot on the box. Winchester Defender Stop the Threat 160 grain bonded protected hollow point in the 350 Legend. And here is your very busy looking box for that Winchester Defender 350 Legend load. Let's flip it around. Here is all of your factory promo information. They actually give you quite a bit of info here on the back. It'll be cool to see if that's what the bullet winds up looking like. Here is your velocity and energy information down here. Oh, and look at that. It actually gives you a barrel length. Ballistics data generated from a 16-inch barrel, which is what we will be shooting this from. We're going to be shooting this from a 16-inch barreled Ruger American Ranch. So we better see something pretty close to that. Let's go ahead and open this up. If I can get it open. These ammo boxes are always like ridiculous to get open. Here we go. So it looks like we've got nickel plated brass. Take one out. A little bit dingy looking, but I mean, I'm sure it doesn't hamper functionality. You've got a hollow point going on. We'll see how it does. And my test rifle today is my Ruger American Ranch, chambered in 350 Legend, of course. It's got a 16-inch barrel up top. I've got a Vortex Crossfire 2 scope. And coming on back, I've got one of my 20-round magazine cuffs. You pop that open, you got a 20-round magazine close at hand right there. Really helps turn the Ruger American Ranch into the perfect truck gun, camp gun, anything you could need it for. Coming around to the other side, I've got my white-tailed deer design on this one. Check out my website, masonleather.com. I would absolutely love to make you one. I will link it in the description and in the pinned comment. We'll be taking 3 shots from 100 yards, firing into 10% ballistics gel that has been calibrated to meet the FBI's ballistics testing protocol. And while ballistics gel isn't an exact proxy for big game, it does provide a repeatable medium through which to test various bullets and ammo against each other. After the shots, we'll examine bullet expansion, weight retention, penetration, and velocity. My goal is to provide hunters like you and I with the most objective information possible to help us make the best choice for our particular hunting situation. The ballistics gel in this video has been sourced from Clear Ballistics. You can find a link in the description. So let's go ahead and shoot it. And we are down here at the blocks after shooting that Winchester Defender 160 grain bonded bullet out of the 350 Legend, and we captured penetration. It looks like we got about 18 and a half, 19, and we'll give it 19 and a half inches of penetration respectively. Pretty darn good, and also they appear to have expanded pretty well too. I can't wait to dig these out and take a look. Let's go over to the first block and see if we can look at the wound cavities. So it looks like they start expanding very, very rapidly as soon as they enter the block at about, really about the 1 inch mark, and then keeps on going. You got that wound cavity tapering off at about the 11-inch mark, but it starts to kind of narrow. It's pretty subjective, maybe about the 8-inch mark. That'd do some damage to a white-tailed deer, that's for sure. And let's take a look at the velocities for that Winchester Defender bonded 160 grain load out of the 350 Legend. Our high was 2275, our low was 2207, and our average was 2237. And here we are looking at those Winchester Defender 160 grain bonded bullets out of the 350 Legend recovered from the ballistics gel. And these things look pretty darn good. They mushroomed really well. Let's jump into it and talk about weight retention. We saw 139, 143, and 147 grains respectively for an average of 143 grains retained weight. And that works out to 89% weight retention on average. Pretty darn good, but for a bonded bullet, I actually would expect just a little bit higher than 89%. It is what it is, and it's not bad. And then on to expansion, and as you can see, these did really, really well here. We saw 0.61, 0.68, and 0.75 inches respectively for an average of 0.68 inches, and overall that works out to 1.9x expansion, which is actually on the top end of what we're going to be seeing for 350 Legend loads, at least of the ones I've tested so far, so really good performance expansion-wise. And now on to velocity. Our high velocity was 2275, our low was 2207, for an average of 2237 versus the factory build velocity of 2170. So we actually came in 67 feet per second faster than factory spec. Very pleasantly surprised. That's a nice little treat on top. No doubt that helps lend to the really good expansion we saw with these bullets. These things are hitting fast and hitting hard. And then on to penetration, we saw 18.5, 19, and 19.5 inches of penetration for an average of 19 inches. Very, very consistent penetration across the board for each of the 3 bullets. And I'm pretty happy with it. There are some 350 Legend loads that go a lot deeper than this. But no doubt the somewhat light penetration has a little bit to do with the massive expansion for these bullets. So it's a trade-off, and I'm kind of happy with it. We're right there close to that 20-inch mark that I like to see for medium game hunting bullets. A little bit shy of that, but hey, this is going to go through any deer that you need it to. All right, y'all, time for my final thoughts on that Winchester Defender 160 grain bonded load out of the 350 Legend. Got my cheat sheet here. This load did pretty darn good across the board. It kind of ticked all the boxes. Let's run down them again real quick. 89% weight retention. It's a bonded bullet. I would really expect nothing less than that. A little bit kind of disappointed it wasn't higher than that, but 89% I'm happy with it. I kind of would have expected it to be a little bit higher on the weight retention, but it is what it is, and it's still pretty darn good. Expansion wise, this load did really good. 350 Legend isn't going to blow up and expand a whole ton. The bullet is already pretty big as it is. It's 35 caliber. You don't need it to expand a whole bunch like you would with a smaller caliber. So 1.9x expansion is pretty darn good, and that's on the higher end of what we're going to be seeing with 350 Legend with the loads I've tested so far. If they're not out yet, I've got a lot more 350 Legend loads coming, so pay attention and watch out for those. I know the results in my head, that's why I can say that so far, that 1.9x is pretty darn good for 350 Legend. And then on to velocity. This load did really, really well. We came in 67 feet per second faster than the spec on the box, and that's something we're going to see with several 350 Legend loads. They seem to be loaded a little bit hot, and that's always good in my book. And then penetration wise with this particular load, very, very consistent penetration, 18.5, 19, and 19.5 inches. Right there on the threshold of the 20-inch mark I like to see for medium game loads. This one didn't quite hit it, but man, it's right there, and a deer ain't that big. Personally, for me, if my rifle really, really liked this load and shot it super accurately, this would be a contender for hunting for me. And then kinetic energy wise, I'm rolling this into all videos going forward. With a 160 grain bullet averaging 2,237 feet per second at the muzzle, we're looking at 1,778 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle, and that is on the higher end of what I've seen with these 350 Legend loads. Most of them fall in the 1,500 to 1,700, 1,750 foot-pound range. This is over that. This is almost 1,800 foot-pounds, which is pretty darn good for 350 Legend. And really at the end of the day, that means that just for the bullet weight, this is punching hard and going fast. So again, what would I use it for? Well, if my gun particularly liked it and I was hunting with 350 Legend, this seems to be a pretty good contender. It hit all the boxes. It checked all the marks. If you've used this particular load in the field on game, let me and everybody else know in the comments how it did for you. Hey, if you enjoy these videos, check out my website, masonleather.com, and get yourself some leather gear handmade by me just for you. I've been handcrafting leather gear for hunters for over a decade, and I would love to make you something. The link is in the video description. And check out my channel for more hunting ammo ballistics gel tests. I have some big news. Lots of you have emailed me or commented how much value you get out of my videos. And you've asked me, how can you be a part of this and help support the channel? Well, I got to work and now I have a way. I've created a Patreon account where you can join me in helping our fellow hunters. Click the link in this video's description and watch my Patreon welcome video, where I describe to you how your help will impact this channel and our community of hunters as a whole. And when you join me on Patreon, you'll get a lot more than I can give you here on YouTube. You'll have to go watch that welcome video linked in the description to find out the details. I'll see you there.